There's a whole podcast about prostitution. But you know what? There's men who actually do want to go to prostitute, which, guess what? If they actually had that window of opportunity to go to prostitute, probably there wouldn't be as much harassment around either, would there?
I don't know. That you're right, is a topic for another discussion. But along the terms of equality, then the law should treat men and women equally. And at the moment, the law is heavily biased in favour of women, whether or not it will be admitted or not. A lot of women are too scared, they say, and the claims are, and the statistics are, that most allegations are never investigated or will come to nothing. The fact is that the law is heavily biased towards women, which is why they can make these allegations and without any proof at all.
Okay, we're going to have to get another coffee shop, because this is bordering on ridiculous now. This coffee shop has. But there was a one case I wanted to talk about. It was a few years ago, and it was when George W. Bush was president. And there's this video clip where he's at a meeting with Angela Merkel, and he puts her hands on her shoulders, and she cringes. All right, now. In all, if you take that as an example, that is actually sexual harassment.
Why? You could have done
He's
it to a
put
man.
his hands on her shoulders without her consent. Yeah, but people are getting done for a lot worse than that at the moment. He's put her hands on her shoulders. She's cringed. She didn't like it. Is that sexual harassment? Or was or was it his attempt to actually be funny or tactile or whatever you want to call it? There was no intention, because let's face it, it's got to be the intent as well.
Well, you are responsible for the impression that you give, let's face it. So you might not have the intent, but you can still give the wrong impression.
You can do, but what is the wrong impression? I'm interested in you. I want to talk to you. I want to go out with you. If you say no to me, I'll tell you what, I'll accept that.
Some less charitable people would say, should she be so lucky? But
yes.
But let's think about it very carefully. The law needs to be equal. So if these ladies make allegations, then I'm afraid they can't have anonymity. Some of them will waive their anonymity, but actually, because the effects on these men are so catastrophic, it should be done with anonymity on both sides. And furthermore, my suggestion would be, should the allegations be found false, then the sanction that would have been applied to the man should be applied to the woman.
I think if a woman makes a false allegation, and let's face it, there has been a few false allegations of rape cases that have been coming, and the women actually have been prosecuted and they have gone to prison for that.
Yes, but not just mildly. They should have, if these ladies are willing to have the man sanctioned severely, and they're false, that sanction should be applied to the women. Let's see how many false allegations you get coming out then.
You know, you look at someone like Michael Fallon and you think, is this guy a sexual deviant? And I've got to say, I don't think he is.
No, he's probably just an average slimy old guy bored of his marriage.
You know, who got a little bit sexually excited and probably decided, you know what, I'm gonna test my luck here, also see where it goes, and maybe did an inappropriate thing, but you know what, he dismissed it. I mean, I've got to say, half the stuff that I've seen in my lifetime, if you could go to court over it, it's far worse than what is making a claim against harassment.
The biggest criminals here are the media, no doubt about it.
I think they are, and they have this, and they want this freedom. Excuse me, they want this freedom of speech to such a degree, whether they can actually say anything they want to. No, they can't,
because they're responsible for what they say.
There is a responsibility.
But what they care about, as we said time and again, is economics. They want to make money.
And it is about money, but the thing is, they're making money on the back end of someone else's misery. Even fabricating the misery.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'd like someone to do? I'd like someone to actually go and target journalists and actually plaster their name all over the papers. And it happened a couple of times where, I don't know if you remember Hulk Hogan?
Yes, I do.
Remember Hulk Hogan? He was this American wrestler, and he was caught saying something on tape, but he went to court, I believe, and he actually won his case against the press. And I think people should have almost like a communal fund, so the press don't actually have a carte blanche to be able to say anything they want, and then have expensive lawyers to be able to cover themselves, because that's what they're doing.
The only time they really got in trouble was over the hacking into people's voicemails, and all they did was they simply shut down one company and restarted another company effectively.
And that's what they do. I mean, it's like...
And actually the key thing there was, this is an interesting one, people just didn't like Rebecca Brooks. They showed, so in terms of personality style, another Harvey Weinstein, they just didn't like her. That was her downfall. And of course she was one of the key people, allegedly, because I think she managed to slime out of it from direct effect, but from various inside sources, shall we say, there was a strong suggestion of what was really going on there. So it's another sign that if you're not liked, then the consequences of what you do are going to be much more severe.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I think, look, I've sounded a little bit heartless in this particular podcast. I just feel that there's got to be some common sense applied.
You know, they've done research, and
thank you for jumping in there, Theo.
Well, because I wanted to add in this bit before you wrap up, that men and women are incredibly different, and including their perceptions. For instance, if a woman is polite to a man, he will automatically think, in a lot of cases, that she's interested in him, and therefore he will act accordingly. If a man is polite to a woman, she just thinks he's being friendly and sociable, and that's it. So she doesn't think he's being interested. And remember, the man is the hunter. So if the woman is being polite to the man, and you're being polite to a hunter, and the hunter thinks you're interested, what's going to happen? He's going to make a move on you. What happens at work? Tell me this. What happens at work? Women go out to work, and remember, women are good compliers, so they go very well dressed, they go very smart, they go and smiley, even though they're feeling bad, and they're going to be friendly and nice and chatty and giggly, and they're going to show interest. What are you going to do? The man is going to feel instantly that they feel that they're interested, the women are beautifully dressed, they brush their nice fragranced hair against their faces, and suddenly, boom, you've got these moves being made. And that's one of the explanations why there's so much infidelity. Because what happens to the woman when she goes back home? She goes back home to her partner, she's tired, she's irritable, her makeup's smudged, she doesn't want to talk. Who's she having a better relationship with, her work colleagues or her partner? So therefore, when you say, oh, no, you can't do anything at work, actually, you need to let common sense prevail. You can't have hard and fast rules, because humans are not biologically set up they're biologically set up to mate. And if you put people together in an environment, then they will start responding to each other.
Providing they like each other.
A woman
and a guy is entitled to say no. Let's face it, they're entitled to say...
But then, of course, there's the abuse of power, because they're worried about saying no. There is a serious point here of abuse of power, because if a woman says no, she might be worried that she'll get sanctioned at work. And that's a very hard nut to really crack, because equally, the leggy secretary, a lot of them do want to date their boss.
Well, they may do, but a woman is also just as capable of saying to a guy, excuse me, thank you very much for your attention, but I am not interested.
Yeah, and if
I
she
want
gets
to categorically say
then she takes him to a tribunal.
Yes, and she's covered herself on that.
So I'm afraid it's again her responsibility for not saying no.
And guess what? She could also send that as an email as evidence, if she ever wanted to use it in court. Because let's face it, or we have a text, and you can actually take a photograph on your iPhone on a text and say, thank you very much for your attention, but I am not interested in your attention.
You can do it politely. You could say, you know what, I'm very flattered and thank you so much, but I would prefer to keep this a professional. And if the boss does not take the hint, then I'm afraid
then he's crossing the line.
Exactly.
Then he's crossing the line.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know that some of this happened 30 years ago, but she was just as capable of saying to a guy 30 years ago, and, that's how I would, I suppose is that how a guy would approach it? But a woman's just as capable of saying that. When I was younger, before I met my wife, I would approach someone, and some people would actually make it very clear they weren't interested. And I thought, thank you very much, and you move on.
Yeah, it makes it easier, doesn't it? If they're very clear. It does make it easier. Instead of faffing around and umming and ahhing.
Absolutely. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for this conversation.
what can we summarise?
Actually, hold on a second. Theo hasn't finished yet, so
no, it's very important to give our listeners a summary. So we've talked about fake allegations and harassment, and we touched on abuse of power. So what are we going to give people?
Sell by date as well. We talked about
sell by date. What are you going to give people as a takeaway here?
In my opinion, if someone approaches you and you're not interested, you're capable of actually saying no.
Furthermore, people are not the same. There are very important sex differences, and usually it's up to the man to do the approaching. And men will approach, and they will be persistent, and sometimes their persistence is rewarded. So if you're genuinely not interested, just make it clear.
It's hard. It was hard enough to date 30 years ago sometimes to even approach a girl in the fear of being rejected, because we had this fear of rejection. So sometimes we don't actually approach women, or vice versa. Or we don't actually let ourselves know that we're actually interested in forming a relationship. So sometimes the relationships that should actually happen never do because of the fear. So if that was happening 30 years ago, now other people have got the added fear of actually thinking, oh my God, if I approach this lady and she doesn't like me, and she not only rejects me, but she could actually make a complaint against me.
Correct. I think, though, that
is that dangerous as well?
It is very dangerous, but I think this entire discussion we've had today is redundant, because I think this is just a media storm. I think last night there were many, many happy interactions between men and women. No matter how persistent the men were, most of the women would have been very clear and said yes or no according to what they wanted, and they all had a nice result. And this is all a media frenzy, and the real criminals here are the media, with the occasional exception of the true harasser who needs to be dealt with. But it is, you know what, it's probably more of an exception than the rule, rather than the rule that the media are trying to build up.
Do you know something? I just want to finish up. I know this very young lady who I'm very close to. And she is complaining, and I wasn't the most empathetic, I've got to be honest. She was complaining about her boss and how he was abusing his position and blaming her, and he was playing the blame game. And I said, then resign. If you don't like it, resign. She goes, yes, but I've got to get something else in place before I do that. No, you don't. You can resign. If you don't like the position or the environment you're in, you don't have to put up with it. You resign. Or you put him in his place and push him back over the line.
One of my golden rules in life is that people do to you what you let them. If you let someone do something, they probably will. That's how a lot of harassment happens. That's how the credit crunch happened. It's a golden rule of human behaviour. So, ladies, put the boundaries in.
And you can do that.
Yes, you can.
Because ultimately, you want
enough to, and that's why I'm saying this is redundant. Because yesterday and tonight and in the years to come, there'll be many ladies putting in the boundaries quite happily, and men get the message.
Absolutely. Okay. Are we? Anything else you want to add to that one, Theo?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for listening, guys, and we'll speak to you next week. And please subscribe and leave any comments that you wish to do. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.